Hey there, folks. Welcome to Spectrum Pulse. We talk about music, movies, art, and culture, and it's Billboard Breakdown. I don't remember. And so, we've reached the end of the fourth year of this series, a weekly series that at the end of every Billboard year, I rhetorically ask you guys whether or not you want me to continue it. Now, of course there's a part of me that wants to keep doing it, as somebody who loves delving into the history of popular music, the annals and the intricacy and the controversies of the Hot 100, it's fascinating to me. But in 2018... look, I'm not going to mince words. It's been a rough year. More than ever, this was the year of the album bomb, where week after week after week, the charts were blitzed with full albums backed up by the streaming machine, and I was stuck trying to pick up the pieces on a manipulated chart. And while I'll have plenty more to say about this when the year-end lists roll around in a month or so, on a week-by-week basis, it's proven exhausting. And I can argue worse for the Hot 100's overall quality. And given that there's no sign any one streaming platform will self-regulate against this, sometimes even being willing co-conspirators in the manipulation, but that's a different story, I don't see this getting any better, and that just makes me feel all the more exhausted by it all. But whatever, we keep learning, we keep going forward, so let's start off with our top 10, and right now it looks like Ariana Grande's Thank You Next has a solid hold in the top spot. Still on top on sales, on streaming, on YouTube, and rising fast on the radio, this lightweight kiss-off seems to have some real cultural dominance, which is kind of weird to me. But coming up right behind it is Sicko Mode by Travis Scott, rising up to number 2 on a sales discount for one last-ditch attempt to go to number 1. But if he was going to make his play there, he probably could have used a week where the radio didn't stall out on him, because streaming and sales just aren't enough at this point. It did manage to hop over Happier by Marshmello and Bastille at number 3, which actually lost a spot on sales, but shored up enough streaming and monstrous radio to rise up a slot here. And on similar radio and sales momentum, we've got Without Me by Halsey up to number 4. Although, given it does have some streaming as well, this might actually stick around and last between years. Lovely. Now, all this shoves down Girls Like You by Maroon 5 and Cardi B down to number 5 as the radio just plummets, but keep in mind it's got enough YouTube to keep this in the top 10 a little bit longer than we all might want. This will not go away quickly or quietly. Compare this to Lucid Dreams by Juice WRLD down to number 6, which hit its radio peak this week, and I can predict this will start to fall off fairly quickly, with a lot weaker streaming. Now, granted, given that Mo Bamba by Sheck West has risen up to number 7 on obscene streaming, I can't really say this going higher is a good thing, but now we got a new top 10 entry. Over a decade after their first one, Panic at the Disco's High Hopes has hit number 8 on big sales and even bigger airplay. Seriously, the radio push behind the song has been enormous, and heading into the slower holiday season, I'm not really seeing this song slow down either. Hell, it blew right past ZZ by Kodak Black featuring Travis Scott and Offset down to number 9, as streaming and YouTube can only prop up so much. And on that note, Drip Too Hard by Lil Baby and Gunna has clinging to number 10 for another week, although if you look at its streaming margins, it's starting to look a little bit shaky there. Thank God! And on that pleasant note, our losers and dropouts, and we got a fair few big ones in the latter category. Now to start off, we got the songs they have sealed their year-end slot. Back to You by Selena Gomez, Delicate by Taylor Swift, and No Brainer by DJ Khaled featuring Justin Bieber, Quavo, and Chance the Rapper. And then following it, we've got the songs that sputtered out a little bit too early, namely Hotel Key by Old Dominion and Kill Shot by Eminem. Frankly, I'm just amazed that the latter song lasted as long as it was. Diss tracks, that does not happen. And then we look to our losers, they fall into 3 categories, starting off with the debuts from Metro Boomin last week dropping back, like 10 Freaky Girls with 21 Savage down to 56, Don't Come Out the House with 21 Savage down to 63, and Space Cadet with Gunna down to 66. That's not dropping fast enough. Then we get the songs that are sputtering out of momentum a little early, the most stark being Dip by Tyga and Nicki Minaj down to 78, but we also have songs continuing down like I'll Never Love Again by Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper at 97, Drew Barrymore by Bryce Vine at 99, Jackie Chan by Tiesto, Dzeko, Preem, and Post Malone at 100, and thankfully, I Love It by Kanye West and Lil Pump, which might wind up caught up between years and not make any year-end list, and if there's any justice, that will be what happens. Unfortunately, our last 2 losers have looked like they've clinched their year-end position, and they both suck. Fifi by 6ix9ine featuring Nicki Minaj and Murda Beats down at 42. I do expect a rebound when the album drops in a couple weeks. And I'm a Mess by BB Rexha at 47. But really, the sooner both these are gone, the better. Now granted, when we take a look at our gains and returning entries, look, it's a mixed bag. I'm not going to say that I'm thrilled that Consequences by Camila Cabello gained off the debut to 83, or that This Feeling by the Chainsmokers and Kelsey Ballerini went up to 77, and while Topanga by Trippie Redd got the benefit of the minor album bomb up to 52, I wouldn't really expect it to last. No, what caught more of my interest was the gains in country this week. And no, not Lose It by Kane Brown up to 28, that barely even qualifies as country. I'm talking about Burning Man by Dierks Bentley featuring Brothers Osborne rising to 75. And more interestingly, Desperate Man is rebounding back on the charts by Eric Church at 94. Now, I got no expectations it's gonna stick around, but from the coming boost from the CMAs, could be interesting if that's what gives it a little bit of traction. I mean, I gotta hope, right? And to my shock, we actually have a decent amount of country to get through this week in our new arrivals. But before we get to that, let's start off with arguably the bigger story this week. Number 98, Toxic Waste by Trippie Redd. I swear, artists title songs like this specifically to bait a reaction from critics like me. And what's alarming is that it's not the only new arrival like this on the Hot 100 this week. But anyway, what I've expected for a while is that Trippie Redd never got a full album bomb proper in the summer because of oversaturated competition. And I'm not really sure I should thank Nicki Minaj or not for that. Anyway, he notched 4 new songs off his mixtape this week, and honestly, this song's not all that bad. I'm thinking a significant part of this is a lot of the production. Minus the chipmunk vocals, of course, as Diplo takes the dusty skitter of some washed out melodies to prop up Trippie Redd's autotune. It actually sounds pretty decent, it's catchy. Beyond that, the lyrics, they do feel a little bit bare bones and basic and wanting all the love even if it's toxic, but I don't know, I guess I see the appeal. Again, it's not really great, but not bad either. I'll take it. Number 96, Millionaire by Chris Stapleton. It's always weird seeing Chris Stapleton show up on the Hot 100, half because the quality is a considerable step up, but also because as a critic who covers indie country, I know it's rare that we're gonna get the sort of Chris Stapleton cut that I would say is purely excellent. And Millionaire, it's an example of that missed opportunity. Yeah, it is pretty good, with the crisp acoustics produced by Dave Cobb, backed up with Chris and Morgan Stapleton's harmonies. It's got a solid enough groove too, but it's also a cover that Chris Stapleton can comfortably knock out of the park in his sleep. And if it's the sort of crapshoot that you get airplay anyway, why not try for something a little bit more ambitious and distinct, like Scarecrow in the Garden from that last album, one of the best songs that he's ever written. Again, I don't want to downplay that this is a solid enough song, but again, I know there's greatness around the corner. I want to see that on the Hot 100. Number 95, Last Shot by Kip Moore. Last shot of whiskey. I press you to my lips, take a little sip. Swirl you around and around and round, then I shoot you down. Feels like it's been ages since I've talked about Kip Moore in any capacity, partially because I missed covering his last album, of which a part of me is still kind of kicking myself over, as I heard it wasn't really better than 2015's Wild Ones, but it was still pretty good. And this song, yeah, it's pretty damn solid. I'll freely admit that like Eric Church, Kip Moore probably belongs closer to Americana and Heartland rock, but given that country's the only thing that plays that, he shows up here and there's some quality in that lane. The strong piano accents playing against the heavier guitars, a commitment to a thicker groove, all accenting Kip Moore's thicker, more distinctive rasp, and I do like his knack for playing with the flow and dynamics in the hook in order to draw emphasis, which is enough to make an otherwise pretty pedestrian love song have a little bit more character for me. So yeah, again, I'm not really gonna call this great, but it's a good song. Hope it picks up some traction. I want to hear more. Number 93, Good Girl by Dustin Lynch. To the church right down the street. Yeah, you up and took my whole world and made it so good, girl. Oh, so good, baby. You know, I keep expecting Dustin Lynch to do more here. He made To the Sky back in 2014, and while that song was seriously pushing the atmospheric side of pop country to the edge, it was a moment of raw potential I really respected. It was a great song, none of which has been satisfied over the past 4 years. So now with this, okay, first off, why is the vocal production so damn flat and auto-tuned and thin, especially against that fake blocky percussion, not at all helped by the guitars that seem pressed through a thin film of oil? Just sounds so cheap chintzy and cheap, especially with the fizzy touches around the beat. That's before whatever the hell happened to the guitar solo there. And then we get to the content. It's a love song to his good girl, and while the sentiment feels sincere, the production really cheapens all of it. It feels plastic. So yeah, mediocre to outright bad. Skip it. Number 91, 16 by Thomas Rhett.
Wild and free, cruising up and down Main in my F-150. Roll the windows down, bass too loud from this burned CD. I'll be right where I wanna be when I'm 16, yeah.
So look, I'm not gonna say Thomas Rhett is in any of my good graces. Marry Me, excellent song, and you can place your bets where it winds up on my year-end list for hits in 2018. But that does not mean that his flimsy brand of acoustic pop gets that much of a pass with me. And with 16, alright, look, I'm inclined to be charitable and say this is actually pretty good. It's not bad either. The percussion still sounds way too flimsy, and the blending is still slicker than it probably should be, but the main guitar melody, it is really good, and I like how the progression of the song of how we want to be older until we don't. There's a little bit more character in the lyrics. And look, on some level, the song's harmless, honestly pretty passable, but I always find the benefit of any age and wisdom coming at the tender age of 25, younger than me, doesn't quite hold a candle to the song like, say, We Were Cool by Laurie McKenna, which nailed its progression with far more poignancy and detail. But that's me being the indie critic who can drink straight whiskey, and Thomas Rhett, he's the watered-down light beer of this song. But you know what, it's better than average light beer, and it's got a good enough catchy melody, so alright, I like it. It's a good song. Number 89, Negative Energy by Trippie Redd featuring Kodie Shane. And that's our country segment finished off, and we're back with Trippie Redd. And here's the thing, I get the weird feeling that I should like this a little bit more than I do. The weird warping melody against the oddly grainy trap percussion, Trippie Redd's melodic flow that balances out pretty well with Kodie Shane's breathy delivery. But then we get to the content, and what consistently holds back Trippie Redd for me. Look, for as ethereal and dreamy as this production's trying to be, and even Kodie Shane's verse is, fusing with bars where you're talking about shooting people in the streets, flexing, and that entire second verse, which might feature one of the most gross descriptions of a girl's vagina that I have ever heard, along with the wonderful line, I'm the shit like my butt stink. Yeah, Trippie Redd, if you wanted that negative energy out of me, you got all of it, cause this, not very good, at all. Number 79, Bad Liar by Imagine Dragons. So from the looks of things, people just aren't that interested in me reviewing Imagine Dragons. It's not getting that many votes on my Patreon schedule right now, and I'm just kind of fine with that right now, especially given the reviews of it that I've seen. But they've got a new single that broke through thanks to the album release, and look, when your competition is what Selena Gomez sampled Talking Heads, you got a bit of an uphill climb. And you know, to be fair, Bad Liar is a more restrained cut than you normally expect from Imagine Dragons, relying more on watery and fizzy keys, the heavier snapping percussion, and a defiantly pop focus where the guitars seem more of an accent piece than any significant part of the melody, and there is just way too much vocal production as a whole. But at the same time, even if the production kind of irks me, I don't really dislike the song. It's a track where Dan Reynolds is actually underplaying a little bit and weathering his own insecurities and his near divorce he had with his ex-wife. But a moment of hard honesty and vulnerability on his part led to something of a reconciliation, even as he was expecting she was gonna leave. Yeah, the sentiment can feel kind of oversold, and it's more just kind of over-polished and sterile than outright bad, but I'm just kind of ambivalent on it. Don't really expect it to stick around though, but I wouldn't really care if it did. Not bad. Number 73, Love Scars 3 by Trippie Redd. And we're back to the Trippie Redd, and okay, this is apparently the third part of his Love Scars series, and right now I'm not at all convinced that I need to go back and hear the other parts. For one, the vocal production is messy as all hell, with the auto-tune and reverb contorting around his tone, and the drippy piano behind the overweight trap skitter. And when we get to the lyrics, look, I get that so much of Trippie Redd's shtick is that love is torture and pain. He's so emo in that lane. But I can't be the only one who finds it really kind of creepy when he fills his single verse by saying, "You ain't going nowhere." Beyond that, it's barely even a full song. Just over 2 minutes, one verse. It's gonna be forgotten really quickly, and for good reason. Number 55, 1499 Freestyle by Trippie Redd featuring Juice WRLD.
Stop taking perks, my stomach burn. May take a half when I hit it from the back. I'ma beat the shit up like Ike turn. Check that bitch like she got Nike on her.
Cause that's what we need to make a Trippie Redd song better, a feature from Juice WRLD, where he describes his sexual prowess as beating it up like Ike Turner. Seriously, who the hell likes Juice WRLD at this point, as he talks about stealing your girl, his drug abuse, and his flexing that's always got this noxious air of gloating to it in his tone that doesn't justify the rhyming of phrases and words with himself, and is increasingly empty content. And it's not like Trippie Redd fares all that much better here. His content winds up being more scattered and forgettable without a stronger focus on sung melody, and it's kind of a shame, because once you get past the generic trap knock, the faded piano melody is not bad. But nah, I'm not much of a fan of this at all, but sadly, we're not done with Juice WRLD, because now we've got number 44, Armed and Dangerous by Juice WRLD.
I get the cash, I'm out. I do the dash, I'm out. Look at my bank account. Look at the cash amount. I get the cash, I'm out. I just be cashing out.
Oh, good lord. Look, am I supposed to be remotely intimidated by Juice WRLD here? Especially given how his hits have had painted him as a drug-abusing emo brat. Hell, the production doesn't even help him there either, with the oddly elegant but wonky strings melody against the lumbering trap beat and the faint hints of flutes. There's no menace here, just somebody who doesn't know how to mix a good classical arrangement. It's so messy, I can't take it seriously. And the slapdash auto-tune mess overstuffed with ad-libs, otherwise known as Juice WRLD's vocal line, it adds nothing to this, with increasingly empty and incoherent flexing that probably owes more to Lil Uzi Vert than anybody else. 3 points though. Number 1, given that this is a song, we can't actually look at your bank account. Number 2, this might be the first time I've heard an Adobe Flash reference on a hip-hop song, dated much. And number 3, it's very telling he outright shouts out the playlist payola that snagged him a charting position. So yeah, this blows, but could it possibly get worse? Well, number 16, Bad by XXXTENTACION. Look, I'm not covering skins. I said what I had to say at length about X when I reviewed Question Mark, and now that he's gone, look, I got nothing else to say other than a lot of disgust at the major labels cravenly exploiting every single last shred of his legacy for an audience who is desperate for more. And I'm not going to play the game with it. So, no, I'm not dignifying the posthumous cash grab with a proper review. The album, it's been tried to add to my schedule. I vetoed it. I'm not covering it. Not happening. That said, enough of the songs will likely show up on Billboard Breakdown, so let me handle this pretty quickly. It's a fragment that's barely 90 seconds long with some of the cheapest percussion layering I've heard all year. X's diction is generally incoherent, the melody is increasingly discordant, and the most you get of a complete idea in the lyrics is a fragment of a hookup between X and a girl who wants it bad. And knowing the other side of X's legacy that I haven't forgotten, it's nothing that I would ever want to revisit. So yeah, slap together cash grab garbage where I have to imagine that even he would have included a little bit more to make this a proper song, and both for what it is and what it represents, Bad by XXXTENTACION is the worst this week, with Juice WRLD's Armed and Dangerous coming behind his dishonorable mention for just being a hilarious mess. Now, best of the week, you know it's kind of tricky, but I think the melody and the content by Thomas Rhett just edges out Kit Moore and Chris Stapleton here. So 16 is going to get best of the week with Last Shot by Kit Moore as the honorable mention. And that rounds up this end of this particular Billboard year. If you guys want me to keep going it, just let me know in the comments down below, because 2019 starts next week and let's hope to God it's better than this. But until then, I'm Mark, you're watching Billboard Breakdown on Spectrum Pulse, and I'll see you next time.